Hi, everybody. I am going to start doing long form content, and I thought there could be no better way than starting today on Monday, June 16th. So, this is going to be posted on YouTube on Tuesday, the 17th, and a lot might change in the world before this gets posted. But what will not have changed is that I posted this article that I'm about to read out loud. I posted this early this morning, sent it off to some people. And then interestingly, a lot of what I wrote about in this article played out. There were some words here that you might notice from some very large tweets that happened today. So it could be coincidence. You never know. Some people use the same kooky words, but it's good to see we're going in a good direction. I think you'll understand what I mean as I go through this article. You could also see it on my Substack, aaron.substack.com. I also posted it in a thread on X, but I'm going to read it here. And the title of this is President Trump Must Protect His Legacy from the Right. And because we are on this channel, we're going to bleep out the words. So if you want to read it, you could go ahead and read it on Substack. So I'm going to read you the article now. I'm not trying to sound like NPR, but I hope it sounds nice. Like NPR. All right, here we go. President Trump is refounding America. When President Trump descended the golden escalator this day 10 years ago, he confronted a broken, calcified Republican Party that was still in thrall to bad ideas and worse candidates. Trump took it by storm in what I could only describe as the political version of a leveraged buyout, and then used his extraordinary powers as a turnaround artist to take the presidency and both houses of Congress twice. He literally redefined what it meant to be on the right in America. He forced us to confront that a conservatism which seeks to conserve everything except the interests of forgotten Americans is not conservative at all. And now he is redefining American government. He has yanked power away from an unelected, un-American leftist bureaucracy, a bureaucracy which tried everything in its power to stop him and yet failed against the force of nature that is Donald Trump. Unlike past giants of the Republican Party, Trump didn't have the luxury of inheriting a conservative movement primed for power, but he didn't need to. He is the movement. And now, with nothing but the force of his personality, he is taking a sledgehammer to the false idols of Washington in the name of the American people. And in doing so, he is refounding America, which is to say, he is dragging America back to something our founders would actually recognize. But while Trump is undoubtedly a great man of history, his legacy is still a work in progress. And not just his legacy as a president, but his legacy as the leader of the American right. And it is here that his ability to be a one-man army actually works against him. Because there will come a time when Trump is no longer president, when new generations have to carry on his mission. So ask yourself, how will they know what that mission is? Who is going to define it when President Trump is gone? How will his movement endure when he is no longer there to hold it together? And to be honest, I am troubled by the early signs, because some of the loudest voices on the right who claim to be the protectors of Trump's legacy are exactly the kind of people who will ruin it. Nazis, conspiracy kooks, self-confessed criminals, hucksters who think virality is a substitute for reality. Personally, I call them the right. Not because they are all stupid, though many are, but because they treat their audience as if they are, which is why I refuse to believe they represent the majority of MAGA. MAGA is not stupid, and neither is President Trump. But because these people are so loud, they confuse many into thinking that they're bigger than they are, which means they've gained a lot of undeserved influence over the right. Let's be quite clear. These people's loyalty to President Trump is a mirage. They talk a great game, but their business model relies on dividing the MAGA movement, on doing nothing but complaining that President Trump isn't going far enough, even as they don't lift a finger to help his movement, on stoking whatever their audiences believe, even if it drives most of MAGA and America away. They aren't capable of loyalty to anything but what keeps people watching. They are slaves to the whims of their audiences. And once President Trump is gone, their loyalty to him will not extend to his legacy if that legacy isn't getting them the attention they want. They will drag the movement into a messy civil war, a death by 1,000 clicks. You need only look at this weekend's development in Iran to see the right in action. Before President Trump had so much as uttered a word, self-styled supporters of his started spamming "no new wars" on X, as if simply saying the words could ward off geopolitical reality. In fact, and President Trump knows this, one of the most important ways to stop new wars is to make the enemy too afraid to start them. Or do these people seriously think a nuclear state controlled by people who chant "death to America" and fanatically follow a religion that views martyrdom as the highest honor would be bound by realpolitik? But again, I doubt any of them has thought for 1 second about what would happen if anyone with power actually listened to them. All that matters to them is that no new wars does numbers on X, and never mind why. Though frankly, they aren't even consistent on that. Just ask them about invading Canada and see how quickly no new wars evaporates. Which gets to the real problem with the right. For all their talk of winning, they're basically dogs chasing cars. They want to win to prove a point, but they have no idea what to do with power once they have it. They're too stupid to wield it. So they inevitably fail in office, which means they have to make their audience think their inevitable failures were caused by a conspiracy rather than by simple incompetence. They're like Marxists, forever whining that their philosophy has never been tried in order to avoid the simple fact that even they don't know how to try it. That's why so much of their rhetoric is aimed at stoking feelings of paranoia, disempowerment, and irrelevance by pretending that Trump's victory has been somehow undermined or betrayed. Just look at all the absurd claims that Trump has somehow been bought. Trump? Bought? Even the left knows that's impossible, which is why they hate him. Trump couldn't be bought by the world's richest man. Trump couldn't be stopped by a bullet to the head. Trump does what he thinks is right, without hesitation and without apology. The right is the opposite of that. They can't even blow their noses without checking X to see if it's popular. That can't go on. These people are poison for President Trump's movement. If they rise to lead the GOP, it would be the surest path back to power for the globalists whom Trump defeated. Remember, President Trump beat the globalists with two ideas which they tried to kill forever: nationalism and populism. The globalists told us that populism meant lynch mobs and nationalism meant Nazis. The elites of both parties willingly accepted this because it made it easier for them to sell out the American people. And if the right gains power, those elites will be proven right. If the right becomes the face of the right, then Americans will recoil. They will believe that President Trump was a Trojan horse for the lynch mobs and Nazis the globalists warned us about, and they will vote the globalists back into power just to avoid them. The right's politics of inaction, subtraction, and distraction will turn President Trump's mighty legacy into a source of annoyance and revulsion for every sane American. But it doesn't have to be that way. President Trump can stop it. In fact, he is the only one who can. And the best way for him to do so is to bring these loud voices to heel. Either he must call them back to sanity, or if they refuse to be sane, he must cut them out of his movement before they destroy it. There is no place for low IQ losers in the struggle to make America great again, because there will be no patience with them in an America that is great again.